Welcome to Off Watch, our weekly interview series, where this week we have an incredible guest for you. Santiago Lange from Argentina is a six-time Olympian who in Rio 2016 won gold just 9 months after getting surgery for lung cancer. He's also been a feature of the America's Cup and, of course, the ocean race, and he has an incredible story to tell. Enjoy. Santiago Lange is a legend of not only Olympic sailing, but also the America's Cup and the ocean race. He's represented Argentina 6 times at the Olympic Games, campaigned in 3 America's Cups, and sailed in 2 ocean races. Now, he's most famous for his performance in the NACRA 17 class at Rio 2016, clinching the gold medal. And that's impressive enough. But if you factor in a few other details, 9 months before Rio, he had to undergo emergency surgery to remove 75% of his left lung due to cancer, and competing at the Games at 54 years of age. This is a very unique tale. Santi, thank you very much. I'm sure your time is precious. I know that you are training and you are competing, but I'll just start with something I read from you, a quote where you said, when you're presented with a challenge, you get passionate. You know, the greater the challenge, the more you're motivated. Did sailing always motivate you? From a young age, were you as passionate about it as you are now?
Yes, certainly, yes. I've been lucky enough to have great talent sailors of my generation. His name is Martin Billock. When he participated in his first Optimist World Championship, that was the first ever Argentina presented a boat or a team at the World Championship, he won. So he was very talented. So when I was young, I was getting beaten by him in every single weekend. and well, I learned that I had to work hard. You know, I had to really work hard, and I never could beat him in the Optimist. He was 1.5 years older than me or 2. So I managed to beat him when he retired, but win the national championship. And it always been very hard to coming from Argentina to be able to fight against the big nations. And we've been doing crazy things along our story to try to get there. So that the quote is coming from that point of view.
Because you know, I don't want to keep reminding everybody of how old you are, but in terms of professional sport, it's quite an achievement to have had this many years, and you're still competing at the top of the game. So I want to go back to sort of where you started, and obviously I think it was 1961 you were born. Have I got that right? Yes. And then, of course, like you say, the Optimist, and you also, it seems like you decide not only are you going to race in sailing, but you're going to make your money in sailing. You go and get a naval architecture degree as well. I mean, it's not only enough to race boats, you want to build them as well.
Well, the reality that it came from our story that when I was young, coming from Argentina, it was impossible to go to the Olympic Games, to dream about it. Don't call it in that times the Volvo Ocean Race or the America's Cup. For us was something that was too far away. So when I finished my school, I could never think of anything professionally or close to professional in sailing. So I decided I had a career. Then after that, I had a boat yard. We were very successful, building Optimist and Europe dinghy back then and Snipes. And we represent Harken for South America. So we had a good company. And only when I was 33 years old that I tried to sail for Spain for the Olympics in 96, because it was impossible to have the funds in Argentina. So I did a lot of crazy stuff and was very slowly fighting to try to get the tools and the organizations to be able to fight for a medal or to enter an Olympic Games. So it took a long time. So my life is the other way around. I had a company, I worked out of sailing, I did all normal stuff, and was only when I was 40, I guess, so for the Olympics in Sydney, that I sold the company, I divorced, and I decided to live out of professionally sailing.
But I want to take it back a couple of years though, because this is where it's so good to actually talk to you, because the stories that surround you are so big and they're almost unbelievable. And I was watching an interview with a friend of yours, I think from university, when you were in Southampton, Eduardo Gallifrey. I wonder whether I'm pronouncing that correct.
I live here in Barcelona because of him.
Oh, okay. Well, because in the interview, he was talking about you taking your snipe dinghy, 2-person dinghy, it's not small, on a trailer, on a trolley, walking it to the ferry and taking it over to France without a car, and then walking it down the road. Is that true? I mean, is this what we're talking about?
It was not a snipe, it was a Europe dinghy, because when I arrived to study in Southampton, for us to be in Europe was, wow, we are here now. So our fathers pay for studying, but our love was in competition. And we said, okay, now we have the opportunity. So we start sailing for 71st. So the first year, I spent all the money my father gave me for studying. We went to Years and we went to the south of France. We bought an old car and we went there with the 470. We slept the whole regattas in the car. We arrived with not a single penny. And then I started sailing the Europe because we didn't get on well with Martin, actually, you know. And yes, it's true. I went from the Western Sailing Club.
I know Western.
The Southampton Harbour with my dolly. I prepared the boat at night inside the ferry, and then I went to sail the national championship in France, in Le Havre. I arrived to the dock there. I walked all the harbor to the sailing club that was 3 or 4 kilometers away, and I did that back and forwards. I also did, which this was more crazy, I went to sail the World Championship in Italy, and I took my mast, my boom, centerboard rudder, the sail, and all my gear from Southampton by train all the way to Italy. And I remember very well, it's cool because I recorded all this in cassettes that I sent to my family. And I was at 5 o'clock in Victoria Station with the mast that I put in the train through the window and have to grab it to go to, I can't remember the station that takes you to the other side to France. It's Waterloo or something. I can't remember the name of Victoria, I can't remember. And then I went with a train to Paris, and then I had to change trains on the stations in Paris with the mast, the boom, and all my gear. Was crazy. But that was how, for us to be in Europe, was crazy nice.
So clearly in that time, and we're talking 1980 to 84, clearly your sailing is getting better and you're giving your sailing a lot of attention. I'm guessing you didn't have too much time left to study?
No, I need to pass my exams because it's not my mother. My father was German and he came from the Navy, and so it was very tough. For him, it was hard to pay me the study. So obviously we did all the sailing and we spent a lot of money, and then we end up living in houses that were going to be knocked down because I didn't have money. I spent it in sailing. But we needed to pass exams. So luckily enough, we studied just the 2 months before the exams. We could only study day and night, and we passed exams, and it was all good in that respect.
And then you graduate at the age of 25. I think you claim your first world championship title in the snipe.
Yeah, well, back then, yes, I graduated earlier. I graduated like 21, and then I went to work with German Friars. That was a privilege. So I worked right after Southampton. I worked like 4 years for Herman in the office in Argentina, and that was a big learning curve in terms of design, in terms of being successful from Argentina. And yes, while I was working for Herman, the snipe works that there in South America and in America was an important class. You know, we sailed against Torben Grail and Mark Reynolds and Ed Adams. There were a lot of very good sailors coming from Brazil or America and even Europe. And so the championship was in Argentina, and we decided to do it, and was a good opportunity to do a world championship.
Because it's shortly after that, as you mentioned before, you're then in 88 in the Seoul Olympics. One of the things that changes throughout the Olympic years is obviously the boats change. But one of the other things that changes is now the athletes that go to the Olympic Games in sailing as well as everything else, it's very professional. It's your whole life. You are training. Back then, how much support did you have? Or was everything just off your own back?
Was zero. I had my boatyard when we went to Seoul. I had my boatyard that we started the boatyard when I was 26, and the Mariani brothers that were my partners today, they own King Marine. So from that boatyard, it became King Marine, which built a lot of Volvo Ocean Race boats.
Yeah.
And they are very successful. And those were my partners. And I split from them when I decided to be professional sailor. And was all, I work all day, and then at night I will go sailing. I still train at night because of them. I love to sail at night, even in the dinghies. And yes, was all like, as you said, was different. I think many countries were already professional. Schumann or Kostecki, they were already have a good structure, not as much as now, but for sure they were training hard. But in our case, we were, in that terms, very amateurs. We sail our soaring, we borrowed from the GBR team, from Smith. And the sails on my way to Korea, Vince Broom from North Sail San Diego, because he's Brazilian, but he worked for North Sails One Design in San Diego for many, many years. He let us some old sails from John Kostecki. So I traveled from Los Angeles, go in a small plane, pick up the sails that John didn't use to go to all sail from him.
Yeah.
And then end my trip in Korea one day before the first race, or the preparatory race, and was our second international regatta, which that Olympics gave me a lot of energy, because we finished ninth. We even won a race. And for what we have done before, we said, wow, we have potential. That Olympic Games show me that if I find the money and the structure, the coaching and all what you need to be strong, I could have a chance to a medal. And that Olympic Games gave me a lot of motivation in that respect.
Did you, at that age, in the 88 Olympics, you were 27, were there many people that were older than you that were racing? Because it's not, you don't need to go maybe one more Olympics and then you're starting to feel, there's a lot of young people coming up here. I'm wondering, did you see potentially 6 games after that?
I didn't. I have no clue of what was going on. Back then, I had a professional work in my company in the building boats, and I didn't look at the age. I arrived 2 or 3 days before the first race, and that was it. I think we did, during the campaign, we did one regatta in America, if I remember well. But that was all. So I didn't know the people. We were just there racing. And then afterwards, I started realizing, well, I knew them a lot more. And coincidentally, I met a lot of those people. But age was not, actually age never in my career was an issue. I didn't, like now I see, I start sailing. So the next Olympics, the laser came in 96. And I said, okay, this is an opportunity. It's a cheap boat, single-handed. Here I come. And was a very stupid mistake, because I started sailing this laser when I was 33. And I only weighed 73 kilos. I didn't have the body. I was too light and too old. I started sailing the laser when I was 33. It was stupid what I was thinking. But the opportunity to do a proper campaign, and then I went to the Worlds in La Rochelle, the first back then the sailing world championship, and I finished 5th, I think, or something like that. And I said, okay, I have a chance here. Yeah. But it was very hard. It was very hard to come in the ladder and things like that. I even tried to sail for Spain, as I said before. But yeah.
But you didn't do badly in the laser. You get a 9th. And in between the 2 games, you've also claimed another 2 world championship titles in the snipe. So at this point, you're sort of, okay, I'm twice Olympian, 3-time world champion. I mean, it's pretty good. when we get to the Sydney Games, and it's crazy at this point, I have to pause and I have to remind myself that we are now talking about your third Olympic Games, and we're not even halfway through. So when we get to the Sydney Games, this is the tornado. Did that feel like, as a boat, catamaran, high performance, did it feel like a better fit for you?
Yes, it took me. So I had a good friend that went to the Olympics for Argentina in Seoul. His name is Ferdinand Garcia Guevara. That he loved catamaran. He was a full catamaran nerd. And he always said, "What are you doing in the laser? You are crazy. You are crazy." And he knew that I had a technical background in sailing, that I love the technical part.
Because, of course, the tornado, it's an open design. You get to
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if he was telling me every day, you will call me, we call it in Spanish, boludo, in Argentina especially. You will call yourself that you are a boludo because you haven't sailed a tornado. You will realize too late. And he was right. And I tried. And at the beginning, I didn't understand the racing because I love tactics and I love to study sailing. And the tornado, suddenly I was Mitch Booth or Darren Bandock or Agara. They knew how to sail catamaran so well. And I didn't know. And I thought it was luck at the beginning. The first year took me like, wow, these people are lucky. And then I realized that I had to change my mind and start reading the wind better. That the tactics were not so important and was more about having a fast boat and reading the wind. And at the end, I got hooked to it because I think in the catamaran, every decision that you make is more black and white. In a keel boat, okay, you take the wrong gate, you can always tack and cover. If in the catamaran, you take the wrong gate and maybe that's the end because till you finish your tack and go the other way. And so I started loving this pressure of, first I started loving just the feeling of sailing a fast boat. And then in the race, I started loving this of having a lot of pressure. Every decision was an important one. You could not recover from you cannot change your decision so easily. And I love it. I got hooked into it and was very hard in Sydney because before Sydney, as I said before, I didn't tell this my wife, after at Atlanta, he said, "Okay, stop, no more Olympic sailing." So I quit sailing and I started working in a distribution of frozen food company for a year and a half. And the situation with my ex-wife didn't get any better. And I decided to divorce, quit the job, and go to Sydney. So we only prepared for Sydney for 1 year. And I think that was a very good result. That was also a very good result because we didn't have the money and was out of our pocket. And we only sailed the tornado internationally for 1 year and was a cool learning. And I sailed there with Cole Parada. I still sail with him in Azurra, a great friend, and was very, very nice story, that one.
And I mean, I can only imagine the jump from being in a laser where you have to hike so hard for 2 knots to then jump into a tornado where you're trapezing for 10. It's so much more satisfying.
It was and then I got hooked into catamarans. I love it now, and gave me this love for the sport in the sensation of how the boats slip through the water. And every time I go training, even now in the NACRA, I just enjoy it so much. I think this cool way to slide through the water.
But then we get this, the ocean race comes up, or, what was then the Volvo, the first Volvo ocean race in the Volvo 60 class. How did that come about? Was that something that you were looking for, or did somebody look for you?
Obviously, as I said, we were passionate about sailing and we admired everything because for us it was too far away. And in 2000, I do a team with Carlos Espinola that he had 2 windsurfing medals. And okay, that's the start of, okay, now we have everything. It's not that Cole is an incredible sailor and he's a good friend. And we went through so many. We were in Snipe World Championship twice with him, and we did so many things together. But Carlos had the power in Argentina to get the money, so we started a campaign in the tornado, really good with Carlos, with the potential to be good. For me, it was a lot of pressure because Carlos had 2 medals in the previous Olympic Games. Now he decides to change to tornado, and some people in Argentina were not happy about him changing from the windsurfing. And they said, "No, a windsurfer cannot jump into a boat. A windsurfer is not a sailor."
Yeah.
And I was, and then we didn't have full support, but the people will say, if we don't win a medal, it was my fault because he comes from. And then we started, and I was doing, to pay for the tornado, I always had to sail big boats. So I was doing all the circuit here in Spain. And SCB, Ross McDonald was sailing for Gunnar Krantz, was supposed to be part of the SCB team for Gunnar Krantz. And somehow he quit, and he said, "Santi, do you want to try?" And for me, it was like a dream come true. I couldn't believe it. We did a lot of offshore racing in Argentina. Since I was 18, I was sailing big boats in Argentina. I did the Buenos Aires Rio race 3 times. So I knew about it, and was an opportunity. I had to come. We were only starting with Carlos. I said, "Carlos, I get this offer. What do I do?" I said, Carlos was supportive. "Yes, let's do it." So we went, and it was crazy. I finished the Copa del Rey in Palma. Next day, I took a flight. They finished fastness rate in Plymouth. And I jumped into a boat, which I didn't know anyone. And we were sailing all the way to Gothenburg. That was a sail test for me. So I didn't know anyone. And we went out of the Solent with 35 knots of wind downwind. I said, "Okay, you steer." I said, "Wow." And then, immediately we arrived at 4:00 in the morning in Gothenburg. I took a plane and I do the Tornado Europeans in a lake in Switzerland with Carlos, which Carlos measured the boat. So I arrived late. We finished 5th, what was pretty good. And when I was in Madrid taking the plane to Argentina, Gunnar called me and said, "You are in." I said, "Well, Gunnar, I am taking my plane to home. I have to say bye to my sons and all that." "Okay, we wait for you." So I went home, say bye to my sons, organize everything at home, and off I went to Southampton, and off I went. And obviously, I was not prepared. And I remember, they've been very nice to me. I had the people like Rodney Arden on board, Dingo, even Gunnar, and there was a lot of people really nice. And I was okay. I was good steering, but I was not an all-round sailor, strong. I was still light. I think to do the boat ocean race, you have to be a lot stronger. But was a great opportunity to have the feel for it. It was a great experience. And I couldn't continue because I had my agreement with Carlos. Gunnar and Rodney keep calling me in every stopover. "Could you come back?" And I had to say no because I had all the calendar with Carlos. Carlos was very professional into Olympic sailing, and I couldn't. So unfortunately, I couldn't do more legs. Only I could do the first leg.
But you get a little bit of a taste, and it sounds like you say, sailing is sailing. You think, okay, there's something to kind of come back there. I mean, that must have been a bit of a tricky time trying to campaign in Argentina at around about that time. My knowledge of South American history is pretty poor, but around about the 2000s, financially, Argentina wasn't in the best shape. Again, were you having to, you described before, sleeping in your car and putting things together yourself. Was it like that again, campaigning for the 2004 Olympics?
Exactly the same. So Carlos, that was a windsurfing, starting to sail big boat with me. I remember we even drive boats from other tornado sailors around Europe to get our boats to the regattas.
Right.
And all again, but again, with a hard times. In 2000, after we joined there with Agara and Steinacher from Austria to train together and develop the sails together. And was an extremely successful partnership and a really cool experience and great experience. And in 2001, we couldn't buy more sails. We were short of money everywhere. And so Roman and Hans Peter introduced us to Red Bull. And then since then, because of that hard period for Argentina, we got into Red Bull. And since then, they've been an important member of our group. I don't even call him Red Bull a sponsor because they are part of our sailing career. They've been, without them, could have been impossible to do all the stories of Olympic Games. And so they came on board, and since then we are with them. And then for Athens, we had the money from Red Bull instead of Argentina.
How does that work? What was that relationship like? Because it's amazing to think. I mean, I know you don't want to call them a sponsor, but there is a, we're going to provide you with money, we want something. I can't believe how long that's been running for. I mean,
it's such an incredible company. When we started, and still now in my case, I don't have a contract. Mr. Mateschitz, the owner, have a special view of everything. Everything what he thinks is out of the box and works. So I only 1 year in 2010, they come with a contract and I signed it. And then they send it again in 2011 and I didn't sign it. And so I think from the 20 years I've been with them, or 19 or 20, I only had a contract for 1 year. And that's it. It's an agreement. And many times, like in 2004, 6 months before the game, they said, "Are you okay with money? Do you have everything?" "No, we need more money." "Okay, here we go." And they send us more money.
But obviously in the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens, the campaign feels good. You're doing well. You've got some good support and you get a bronze medal. What did that bronze medal feel like, your fourth Olympic Games? Was it a case of, I've got my medal, or did you immediately know, I want more than this?
For sure was your feeling. For sure was exactly that. I got it because I put myself with a lot of pressure. We've been world champion that year in the Tornado in May. So a few months we were ranked number 1 in the world. I always thought we should have won gold. And okay, it was a relief to have a medal, but I always have this shame why we didn't win it. And was the only few regattas I analyze in my life that I don't know what we did wrong to not win. You know, we had a couple of races that we were leading and suddenly the wind died and now the race is cancelled. We had a couple of incidents that and then we lost it. And I must say, at the prize giving, or for a long time, I was so happy to have a medal. But in the end of my heart, till now, I have I don't know the name in English, something itching that is, it's a shame.
Yeah, because it was close. I mean, on the numbers going into the final race, you still could have got silver. It's all still there. So I can only imagine that simultaneous emotion of being really happy and I wanted more.
You are spot on. I was incredibly happy to, and it's true. My first attempt to go to an Olympic Games was in 1980, which I lost to Martin Billock. Then I tried for 1984 in all boats in 470. I lost the trials in Argentina. So from 1980 to 2004 was 24 years dreaming about it. And so obviously to get a medal is a lot, no? But I must say that in the podium in Rio, I remember a lot Carlos, because we never managed with him to win a gold medal. And as a team, I think we did really great things and we deserve it. I felt it that we deserve it. And I said, when I was in the podium, I thought a lot about him and our team, that we should have been there as well.
This is where I think that your sailing career gets really quite incredible, because with your next move into the America's Cup campaigning, or competing in the Louis Vuitton Cup, the Challenger Series. You've sort of done the big three now. So this is 2007. This is with Sweden. This is a Swedish entry, a victory challenge.
For me, to be in the America's Cup was unbelievable. Was something I could never dream of. It was too big to me. And so to have this opportunity, and Victory Challenge was the right team for me to join, because it was a small team. They only had the experience of Auckland before, but the personality of the Scandinavian is really nice. Yeah. They're very, very nice people. All of them, the whole team have such a great atmosphere that there was not big egos or people. We were all there to learn and to do it well. And at the beginning, we didn't have a lot of money. And then Red Bull came into the project. Suddenly I was part of the making decision program. I was there in the 5 people that were deciding themes together with Magnus Olsen and Magnus and Stefan Ram and the whole. It was an incredible. And I got the possibility to go up the rig. It was hard at the beginning, but then I liked it. It is one of the jobs I remember so nice of being sailing, to be up there with the radio. It's a lot of pressure telling the tactician, I think we should cover the left. And was a really nice experience. It was really, really good. In all sense, because we were a small team, so you get to be involved in all the decisions. I was really involved in the design of the sails. I was really involved in the meteorology. I was really involved in the design of the boat, because I was working with Herman Frers and Manny Frers. And so I was aware of all the design decisions. And so it gave me the opportunity to be in all the parts of the America's Cup. And it was a really nice experience.
The next thing, though, is obviously Beijing Olympics 2008. So this, in the timeline, is 2007, we were climbing up and down America's Cup masts, and now we're back in the tornado again.
We went to Japan, and we trained before the Olympic Games 45 days in a row, non-stop. We only rest, I think, half a day the day before the games. We went on.
So many athletes will try and fit in some rest, to not get ill and all the rest of it.
We didn't. We worked so hard. We worked so hard, and we decided the mast of the games the day of the measurement. We were late. We were just late, and that Olympic Games again. I think we won like 5 races in that Olympic Games, and we decided, okay, we will. If there is wind, we will not have a chance, and so.
Because this is what I was wondering about, because of course this was Qingdao, which was the sailing venue, and everybody, even before the games, people were worried that it was going to be too light. And, I'm looking at you now, you're not too big. You were mentioning before that you were too light for the laser, so I'm guessing you've got a fairly, slender frame. But then it doesn't stay light for the whole week, does it? You actually get some pretty big wind.
And then we lost it. We were lucky, because the only day that was wind, the race committee was struggling with the anchor and nearly sank in our course. So they only did 1 race. We were really extremely good in the light and medium wind, but in the very strong, we were a disaster. And we've been a little bit lucky. And so that day we were fighting. I remember fighting. We were 4th at the end of the last mark. And Carlos, on the agreement with Carlos, he said, I will not go to the gym. He'd been pushing so hard in the gym for the windsurfing that, okay, if I continue to Qingdao, I will not do the gym. Okay, Carlos, no worry. And that race was so strong that his leg was shaking in the last downwind. And okay, he got thrown away by a wave, and we capsized like a minute to the finish line, 30 seconds. And so there we lost valuable points, and Fernando Echevarri was good in the light and good in the breeze, and Tom Pass, they were so good, and we lost the possibility to go the gold medal in that capsize. But I cannot regret that, because was the reality. The deal was not the deal, Yeah, we've been lucky that only that day was strong breeze.
He's not here to defend himself, but when you say he didn't go to the gym, I'm sure he was still working very hard on the bicycle.
No. It was, for me, was not a problem. But I think we capsized not because he didn't go to the gym. It's basically because we didn't train with the wind. And was in 1 year we could not prepare for all the conditions. We only had to focus in what we thought was going to be the playing game, and that's what we did. So basically, no, absolutely nothing to do with Carlos. Carlos was an outstanding sailor, was an incredible sailor, and big part of, I guess, without Carlos, when we were slow in years that year in 2008. I wouldn't be as good confident as he was, and he was an important part in that moment. You know, he was so good supporting and changing sails and keep pushing that this will get right. And I learned a lot of him in our Olympic preparation when I got to sail with him.
So you come away with the bronze, your second bronze, and I'm wondering, you described the feeling of your first bronze medal standing on the podium as being, this is my Olympic medal. What did the second bronze feel like?
Great. Where we came from, it was outstanding. Was like a gold.
So you come off again, you come off a medal-winning Olympic campaign, and then we're back to the ocean race. And so you mentioned before that you've got you've got ties to Spain. So here we are with Telefonica Black in 2008-09. What was your involvement in this team? You'd only done the first leg back with Team SEB. What about this time for the Spanish boat?
It was a B team. It was the Telefonica Black. So basically Pedro Campos, I think, and Bauer Becking, they find all the money for Telefonica Blue. And Pedro is an incredible guy, getting the money and putting a project together. I wish once he wins the Volvo Ocean Race, because he really deserves it. The ocean race. And so the second boat came late, and Fernando was going to be the skipper, and Fernando called me, and at the end of the day, we were not well prepared. The base was in Alicante, so the whole training of the blue boat was in the Mediterranean, which I think, looking backwards, and even when I was involved with Telefonica, with Ike Martinez through Juan K. office for the other Volvo Ocean Race that was based in Valencia, you realize why Alicante was not the right spot. And the proof was the small brothers both had back then, and yeah, the join between we put together a Spanish team because it was supposed to be most of us, except for Michael Pasavan from South Africa. We were all Spanish, most of us, and Roger Neeson, the navigator. And I think we were just, the whole project was late and we were not experienced enough.
And it was the experience must have come quite fast, because leg one, I think you guys break. This is out of the Med, this is down to Cape Town, and you guys do your dagger board, your run. I think the bowsprit rips off, doesn't it, carrying the sail? Welcome to ocean sailing. That must have been. I'm hoping that no one panicked on board, but a little bit scary.
No, I think it's not that. I must say, experienced enough to win it or to put the whole program together. I think they were all very good sailors. But it's like if you jump 3 months before an Olympic Games, you are not experienced. You need to go through a process. These races, all the things in a sport general, in sailing, of course, is a process. You have to go through the process. And I think we didn't do that process, basically. we finished the rush of the story is we just finished a crazy Olympic Games with no rest. In 10 days, I went back to Argentina, the celebrations, and 10 days we were back sailing a big boat. And the same for Fernando. Fernando won the gold in the Tornado, and he was skipper of a Bold Ocean race the next day after a whole Olympic campaign. And that's not easy to do, And we were all, some of the people, most of the crew have been sailing before we finished the games. But, the preparation, the process, I really believe in the process. And I think back then, and then I think the whole Telefonica Black won the last leg, which it was an incredible achievement. I was so happy for the whole team and really good for them. They won the last leg. That was a learning process that they were getting better and better.
But I'm wondering about, were you on board for leg 4? Because I remember the storms that came in on leg 4, and Telefonica Black, the boat was abandoned at that point. I'm just wondering.
I was not on board. I quit in Singapore. So I did from Alicante to Cape Town, where we broke the rudder. And when we were downwind going really fast, and the rudder broke, and then we broke the bowsprit, and everything was a big kind of a big broken boat. And then we did to India, and then we did to Singapore, and then I quit. Basically, I realized that we were not working good as a group, and I felt that I respect a lot the Bold Ocean race, and I think you need to be a tight group to do it. I felt that I was not having fun anymore, and why to risk my life if I'm not having fun, and that's what happened, and it was a very, very hard decision, and many times when I look backwards, I reject because, you said I did the Bold Ocean race. I feel like I never did it because I didn't finish it, and so it's not true that I had a taste of the Bold Ocean race. That's the fair quote, but I never done it, and I respect so much the race, and I respect so much the sailors, not to tell the people that won it, that I reject a little bit that decision. But I felt I always in my life I put enjoyment and be able to work really. I enjoy working hard, and I enjoy, as you said, problems, but I need to be enjoying. But here somehow how the team came up together, I was not enjoying, and I felt quite to risk my life. I had 4 kids, a lot on, and so I quit. And it was a tough decision, and still a difficult thing to remember.
You're not the only person that's told me that you cannot do the ocean race unless you have that spark 100%. If there is a tiny bit of doubt, it's enough not to enjoy it, or you must go. So I can understand that. I mean, that could have been the end of the story. You like you say, you had a taste for the ocean race, but all good. You've got your 2 Olympic medals. You've done so well, and then this is when Cecilia comes on the scene, and this is somebody that So I always feel sorry for the sort of someone like Cecilia in this situation, because she's a big name in herself. She's gone to the Olympic Games twice in the laser radial. She's done well. And then this is where this partnership comes together. Who convinces who? How did you guys decide, maybe Santiago Lange will go for the Olympic Games one more time?
That was a really funny story. So after, when they took away the Tornado, I decided to quit the Olympic Games. I was not happy, but I didn't have a boat to sail on. So I went to work for Artemis again, another Swedish team. for the America's Cup in San Francisco. So I went to work with them. No, after the Volvo, I started working with Juan K. So right after the Volvo, and then I was I worked for Telefonica again as a link between the design team and the sailing team. I was hired by Juan K, and I was responsible for that. And then I was totally off. I didn't even follow very much the 2000 and London Olympic Games. And I was in San Francisco when I finished in 2013. What I was doing in San Francisco, Cecilia started the NACRA campaign. And when I went back to Argentina after San Francisco, she said, I want to talk to you because to see how my campaign, how I am doing. Okay, come. And she came home and she was alone. And where is Esteban, his partner? And I said, no, we quit to sail together. So I really want to ask you if I go back to the laser, so I continue in the NACRA. And I said to her immediately, why we don't do it together? And she didn't answer. And it was the first time, I would say, a decision that I take, my only decision that I take without even thinking. Normally, I really like planning, and especially in sports, not in my personal life, but when I am working, I really like planning. And I said, why we don't do it together? And then we continued talking whether she should go to the laser or not. And then again, I said to her, why we don't do it together? And then she never answer, ever. And I was saying, okay, this young girl thinks that I am too old for the NACRA, so she's not answering.
Because this is 25 years, the age difference.
I don't know, but yes, you know better.
I've done the math.
And then she left my home. Well, that's the end of that meeting. And then I was angry. I was saying, she thinks that I am too old. So I wrote her an email saying, Ceci, I really would like to do this together. And she said, well, I thought you were joking. No, I'm not joking. It's true. So then we started. And since then, now I am very strong on this, on doing what I like, and forget about any paradigms that you are old or this is the time to work and do America's Cup or whatever, because that's my job. I said, I should do whatever I like. And if I like it, I do it. If I don't like it, I don't do it. It was a good lesson.
And a good start as well, because you two form a team in 2014. I think it was 2 months later. You get second at the World Sailing World Championships, which is the Rio qualifier. So already, very quickly, you go, this is obviously working very well.
Well, you done your job, eh? Very good. I'm impressed. Very nice to talk to you. Yes, but I remember, and I have it written in my notes, I said, this is the result of a talented week. Obviously the experience in Toledo, and I felt, and I wrote it in the notes, and I still have the notebook, and that I said, if we want to win a medal, we should do it out of our hard work that give us the basement, that the result come from a basement. We cannot invest 3 years or 2 years, in this case of our life, to depend on a result of a talented week. And I remember, and Cecilia didn't understand that point back then, because I was saying, okay, our rank now is 15 in the world. It's not true that we are second in the world. And I said, this guy is not celebrating that we just finished silver at the Worlds. And I was we need to work harder because we are far away. It was obviously felt really good to finish silver at that time in our career.
When did you start to get alarm bells about your health?
In all that year, 2014, I sailed the TP with Phoenix of Eduardo Sousa Ramos from Brazil. We finished second at the TP Worlds. We were very happy. But every time I took a plane, I was getting ill. All 2014, and I think at the end of 2013, every time I pushed hard in my training or I was taking a plane, I was getting ill. And then we did a very good hard effort in Brazil in end of 2014, beginning of 15, and we had a plan to be good in the results in 2015. And then when we traveled to Palma, we arrived like 10 days before Princess Sofia, and I was really tired. I couldn't even go into the boat. And we did that regatta. We finished like 25. I couldn't hold myself. I don't know why we raced it, but we raced it. And then I had another the Soto 40 World Championship in the hometown of Eduardo in Ilhabela. And I couldn't say no, so I went off after Palma. I went to Ilhabela, and I was only going from the hotel to the race. I would jump in the boat, do the race. I was tactician for Eduardo, and then jump off the boat. And then I decided I cannot continue like this. I need to study my health, and then is where I find my cancer.
Because it's something that you've been doing all of your life, traveling, jumping off into a boat. I imagine that any of us would ignore the warning signs for some, did you, I'm trying to imagine, did you even consider this might be serious? Or were you thinking, if I get a good night's sleep,
No, it was exactly what you said. I was, Gonzalo Araujo, which we did Telefónica Black together and was the main shell trimmer for Phoenix. He was saying, Santi, you got to do something. And I did regattas with antibiotics. I was drinking paracetamol or ibuprofen. Whatever I could buy in a pharmacy, I will buy it and drink it. And I think I destroyed my intestine in that period, because I arrived to a regatta. You cannot say, okay, I don't come for racing tomorrow, So I would drink whatever. And then, but after Palma, which I felt so down, I said to Cecilia and Mateo, our coach, it's time for me to stop this and look into my health. And it was also afterwards what you are saying. I said when people said I had cancer, I didn't believe it. I said, this is wrong. It took 6 months for me to imagine. Took 6 months for me to believe it. I said, because in my case, it was a chance that the nodule was benign. It was not 100% proven that was malignant. And I said, for sure it's benign. How is it possible that I have this? So for 6 months, I was in doubt till actually I had a meeting. I had confirmed a surgery in Buenos Aires. And so I went to hospital to do all the pre-analysis. And when I meet the doctor, I said, I quit. I don't get surgery. Like 2 days before the surgery, everything was booked. And I said, no, I don't surgery. It's too much. And then I only surgery when 4 doctors took me into a room and said, Santi, you are not understanding. You are crazy. And then I said, okay, we go for it.
Because the surgery was always going to be removing part of your lung. It was always going to have some effect on your breathing, on your ability to do sport. I'm assuming that in your mind you were thinking, but Rio, it's just, come on, if I have this surgery, was that what you were balancing?
No, Rio was not in the table at all in my mind. Was about a lifestyle. I like to go surfing. I like to go riding with my sons. I like to play squash. I use my body. Like if I go holidays, I ride my bike or I do sports. That's my holidays. And I always thought, okay, if they take 75% of my lung, I will not be able to do sports again. And that what was, and the problem was that maybe the nodule was benign and was unnecessary. That was the tricky part.
Yeah.
Could have been unnecessary. It was a bad one. So it was necessary. Luckily, I had these hard doctors that pushed me hard. But was about a lifestyle, was about the way I see the life. And when I was meeting these doctors, for the doctors, they only see to save your life. But for me, it was not an easy decision. It's a different, and today I am friends with the doctors that did the surgery, and they said, you are only the few patients that they don't put the responsibility into us. You were taking your decision. And for us, was hard, but was very good, because many times we feel in the responsibility that we are deciding for our patient. And I was studying, because I am now an architect, we're measuring the size of the nodule, which was an indication whether it was bad, a good one or a bad one. And I said, no, you are not measuring this right, because the cut could be here instead of here. And because I was thinking we should measure volume, I was telling them. And I was discussing all what was crazy, but that was part of the story.
So you have the surgery, like you say, it took some convincing, but now you go for the surgery, 54 years of age, 9 months away, and they take out 9 months away from the Rio Games, and they remove 75% of your lung, your left lung, I think.
Yes.
Then when you wake up from the surgery, and of course there's a danger with any surgery, but the surgery goes well, you wake up, you've said that you were very worried about what the effect would be on your body. When you woke up, how did your body and your lungs, how did they feel?
I don't recall. It felt strange, and obviously the first, I can tell what Cecilia came to Cecilia, because we were racing the European Championship. I decided to search it in Barcelona, and just at the same time it was a NACRA 17 European Championship. So we were training for the thing, and then I had this meeting with the doctors, and I said, okay, you need to do surgery. I said, okay, with the European Championship, and Ceci and Matteo would race. Matteo was our coach, that is a very good sailor by himself, and they sailed together, Europeans, and they were coming to the hospital every day after racing. And she came to intense care when I left the surgery, and the only thing I was asking is how much of the lung. I was crying and asking what's the amount of lung they took me away, because I was thinking the smaller they take, the easier I would recover. And then I was lucky enough to have this dream to get good for the Olympics in Rio, and that was such a big motivation that I was immediately working hard in trying to recover. I forgot about everything, and I was just pushing and pushing. Like 7 days after the operation, I went to see one of the races of the NACRA in the Europeans. I jumped into a motorboat with my brother, and we went to see the racing and see how it was.
Could you speak at this point? Did you have a voice?
No, because there is a nerve that is called recurrent nerve that goes. There is no reason for it, but it goes down to where I had the nodule, and they touch it during the surgery, and then I had no voice. So for 3 months, my voice was very weak. I can speak like this, but I could not speak. So it took me three months, I guess, or something like that, to recover my voice. But obviously, first of all, it was a dream to get to Rio in shape, and also my brothers and my sons and Ceci and Matteo were so important in the story. I am talking to you, but in all the cases of what we have discussed before, there is always, I've been very lucky to have incredible coaches or incredible mates on my side. And in this story, for sure, my family, my sons and Ceci and Matteo were the best partners I could have. No, it's not about me, for sure.
Because you're campaigning to go to 2016, and this is where I find it very interesting, your motivation and what must have been going through your mind, because you're campaigning, you've been to all these Olympic Games, 5 of them, you've got 2 Olympic medals, and now you're feeling like this is a good partnership. We could go to Rio, we can get this gold, things are going in the right direction. Then we get the cancer. I'm sure anybody with cancer describes it happens quickly, your life gets turned upside down, and you're trying back to go to Rio, trying to get things back on track for your medal, but also your two sons are going to Rio as well. I mean, I can only imagine how much being there at that games must have meant to you as a competitor and as a father.
It was unbelievable. Right after the operation, my sons were going through the trials. Was the last opportunity to get a spot for Rio in Buenos Aires. So that was when I was getting surgery in Barcelona. Iago and Klaus wanted to come to Barcelona, and I recommend them to stay in Rio, in Buenos Aires, training for the World Championship to get the spot. And today, some Iago may say, well, I regret a little bit because I would like. They didn't realize very well what. They blame me that I was not telling them that I had cancer, which was true. I tell them I had a nodule. And so they regret a little bit that. And and so I was lucky enough to be in Buenos Aires while the World Championship of them, and I saw them getting the spot, and then going to the games. It is incredible because you as an athlete, you dream to win regattas or be in tournaments, but you never dream to be part of the same team with your sons and at the Olympic Games, you know. And I remember, because by coincidence, a British journalist, 1 year before the Games, invited me to Maracanã to have an interview about the Olympics. And only then I realized, wow, I will enter this stadium with my sons if they qualify, you know? I said, wow, this is big. And normally I don't ask things to my sons. And 15 days before the opening ceremony, I said, okay, this time I want to ask you something. We will enter the stadium together. You know, I didn't want them to be with the basketball players. And so we did. And I think with time, or as you said, in my heart or in my feelings, I think it's at the same level of winning the gold. Because the gold have the achievement, obviously, the athlete achievement, the sport achievement, but the feeling of entering the stadium with Cecilia and Iago and Klaus was unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, it's amazing to hear you say that, because the parade into the stadium and everything, it's incredible scenes, I'm sure, and very few people get to see it from the point of view of an athlete, and to share that really must be special. You'd stood a lot. I mean, at World Championships, you've stood on the top of the podium, but at an Olympics, you've stood on the podium before, twice for bronze. Now you get to be the last person to come up onto the podium, and you get to stand at the very top. And not only that, but it's your flag and it's your national anthem that's being played.
Yeah. Before that, actually, the more I must say that the celebration we had in the water, my sons were just finishing the 49 race, and they asked Nathan to unrig their boat because they knew we were sailing a medal race. So they arrived, and just at the finish of the race, they just see the last downwind, I guess, or something like that. And then they went swimming to come to congratulate us. It was illegal. No one can touch your boat since you finish. And they swam like, I don't know how many meters they jumped from, totally dressed in sailing gear with the harness and everything. And they jump. And that was also an incredible moment. I think that moment in the water was, that's the difference. It was a total emotion, family moment. And then the podium, obviously, I had this reject that I never seen the Argentinian flag or the national anthem played in an Olympic Games. And that's always struck you. You want to see your flag and hear your national anthem. And obviously that was the special moment in the prize giving. But the emotional celebration in the water was also incredible. It was really, both of them have different feelings, but it was incredible.
Is that gold, with everything that it must have taken to win, all the years of hard work, all the difficulties with your health and everything, is that gold enough? Or are you still planning for more?
No, obviously we are planning for more. But you were when you are lucky like me that you get in sport for so long, you start to learn more that at the beginning you are there probably for winning, but along my career I realized that I am here for sailing, and that's it. I just enjoy sailing, and I enjoy the challenges the sport gives me, that nothing else in my life give me that feelings of challenges, and that you get you sad, that you get you happy, that all the emotions of the challenges of an Olympic campaign or a sport event. I continue racing because of those challenges and those emotions. Honestly, obviously, I love to win, obviously, and I work like hell to win. I cannot tell anything differently, but I get more angry if we don't train well than if we lose a regatta. If we don't do things that we should do well, or that there I get very angry during the small regattas or in the trainings and Grand Prix with Cecilia or myself or the team. But I am there for that. I am there for the feelings, and I have it very clearly. I really continue because I just love our sport. It's such a magnificent sport.
You've obviously had an amazing sailing career, and I can only thank you for the sailors that I know who are inspired by your story to be as passionate about sailing as you clearly are. Thank you very much for talking to me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for all your studies. I will send you the book, which is ready, but the COVID stopped it.
Please.
I will certainly.
Please.
It will be a pleasure for me to send you the book.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.
Oh, my thanks to Santiago Lange for his time for this interview. And I think you'll agree, an incredible story, not only from Rio 2016, but spanning his entire sailing career. And if you enjoy this interview, we've got more coming. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our updates. And in the comments below, leave us a suggestion as to who you want us to talk to next. We are building a list of some of the biggest names in sailing, and we can't wait to bring you those interviews. See you next time.